So, how often do you learn about volcanic eruptions? Probably not that often, but that's okay because today we'll be diving into the different eruption types, the effect that these eruptions can have, and the different techniques that scientists use to keep an eye out on these eruptions. So, I know that most of us don't have any experience with volcanic eruptions, thankfully, and maybe the only experience that we do have is from our elementary school science fair project, when we would make our paper mache volcanoes and we would add a little bit of baking soda and a little bit of vinegar and we'd watch these baby eruptions occur. Well, volcanoes in real life are a lot more impressive than that. And I know here in North Texas we don't have any volcanoes, but they are closer to us than you might think. I mean, in Yellowstone, it's home to Yellowstone, the supervolcano. And in Hawaii, they are home to 15 different volcanoes there alone. So, eruptions. I know that telling you guys that eruptions occur in volcanoes is not some sort of mind-boggling information that I'm handing to you guys. But did you know that there's three different types of eruptions? Well, there are. So starting off with magmatic eruptions. The Oregon State University explains that these magmatic eruptions occur when lava from deep within the Earth's crust comes out of the volcano and has an eruption. And these are most often what we think of when we think of volcanic eruptions. And this can either be like a steady flow of lava or like a more intense flow of lava. Okay, so next we have the phreatomagmatic eruption. And the National Park Service describes these eruptions as an eruption that occurs when water and lava come together and the lava makes the water really hot. In fact, it makes it boil and produce a lot of steam really fast. And this intense buildup of pressure leads to a very explosive eruption with lots of steam and lots of lava. Lastly, we have the phreatic eruptions, and these are very similar to the phreatomagmatic eruptions, except instead of also lava erupting, it's just steam. Okay, so now we know about eruption types. Do these have any effect on us or on the world we live in? Well, they do, and in fact, it can have some effects on health. And the World Health Organization explains that the volcanic gases that occur from a volcanic eruption can have some detrimental effects, which can look like tremors, difficulty breathing, vomiting, and in more prolonged exposure and in more serious cases, even lung cancer and other respiratory illnesses. And so, okay, we have health. What about the climate? Well, it can affect the climate. And the volcanic gases, once again, which in this case, what we'll be talking about is carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. These gases can cause adverse effects as well. So with carbon dioxide, as we know, it's a greenhouse gas, and this greenhouse gas can cause global warming. And with sulfur dioxide, this can cause the global cooling of the Earth. And so that sounds pretty scary. So, is there any positive effects to society? Well, actually, there are. And the USGS explains that the fertile soil, for example, that we use and civilizations have used for thousands of years, those come from degraded volcanic material. And eruptions and volcanoes in themselves, the heat that comes from them, it helps us to harness geothermal energy, which is amazing for our world and for the climate. So, okay, we know eruption types, we know the effects. Well, you might be thinking, what if I don't want to be near a volcano? How do I know when it's going to erupt? Well, thankfully, there are scientists that dedicate their lives and their jobs to just this topic. And so they use different techniques in order to make sure that everybody is safe. And so the National Museum of Natural History explains that they use techniques such as the seismographic detection, which is used to monitor different like earthquakes and tremors. And this is very important to monitor these earthquakes and tremors because these always occur before a volcanic eruption. Okay, next we have the technique of spectrophotometers. And spectrophotometers, they analyze the amount of volcanic gases in the air. And it's very important to analyze these volcanic gases and keep a close eye out because any sort of fluctuation could be a good hint of when a volcano will be erupting. Lastly, they use geological mapping, and geological mapping helps determine the age, the type of rock, and the activity of volcanoes, whether that be activity from the past, and knowing the past activity helps us know the future activity of volcano. So, learning about eruption types and the effects and how scientists use different techniques in order to keep an eye out on these eruptions is a great start in learning about volcanoes. But there's still so much more that is left to learn and so much more left to learn about the impact that they have on us.